Hi, this is Scott Hamilton from InKnowVision. Thanks for watching this webcast. This is one of a series of short videos on captive insurance companies. You can view more of these videos by going to YouTube and searching on InKnowVision Captives. You can also find more information on our website, which is shown here on the first page, InKnowVision.com. Keep in mind, please, that these videos are educational. They're not designed to be tax advice, and we ask that you read the disclaimer on the last page of this slideshow for more information. If you have any questions or you would like to explore next steps or just have a conversation about how captive insurance might work for you, feel free to contact us. Our phone number and email are listed on this slide, and they're also shown again on the last slide. So today we're going to be talking about the process of forming a captive, and there are essentially a number of steps that we go through that are designed to help you evaluate if a captive is right for you. And then in the second half of this short slideshow, we're going to be looking at if a captive is right for you, what does it take to get one up and running. So step one is qualification. Does your business fit the profile of business owners and businesses that make sense to use a captive? And we're going to go through very quickly some of these qualifiers, but we're going to want to know what business you're in. Some businesses have more risk than others, and clearly the higher risk businesses are going to be better for captives. If your business doesn't have any real insurable risk, then it's not clearly going to work for a captive. We're going to be trying to identify those risk areas for your company. We've got a couple of different tools that help us do that on a preliminary basis. We're going to be looking to see how many employees you have and whether or not you have employees. We're going to be asking whether or not you have buildings or real estate that might be creating risk for your business. And on the financial side, we're going to be digging into the gross revenues and the profitability of the company. We're also going to be looking at how much of the money is going back into the business for funding growth or capital purchases, because that's going to impact free cash. We're going to be looking at salary again for the same reason. Sometimes you may be taking a lot of money out in salary or distributions, and we may want to reorder that in order to allow you to do a captive insurance company if that makes sense in your case. Once we get through that qualification step, then we move into step two, which is if you are qualified or if your business is a likely candidate, then we want to set up a conversation between you and an underwriter. Underwriters typically work for captive insurance company managers. Every captive insurance company in almost every jurisdiction has to have a manager who is a licensed professional that does that job, and they will typically have underwriters on staff who are experienced in this type of business, and they will be able to really pinpoint the totality of risk in your business. And not only that, they'll really help to understand which may be the best risks to insure with a captive insurance company as opposed to just simply what all the risks are. Once that conversation is done, the underwriter will issue an underwriter's report, and they'll get a preliminary read from an actuary as to premiums. So now we can do a cost-benefit analysis for you so that you can actually see, if I do this, here's what my costs are, here's what the administrative costs are, here's what the other costs are, professional fees, licenses, and so forth. And here's the expected benefit, so that you can look at this and sort of analyze for yourself whether or not this makes sense for you. Is it so close to call that it's not worth the effort? Is it a really good benefit? That make it kind of a no-brainer to go forward. Assuming it's good, and assuming that you decide to move forward, of course you can always either way. I mean, you can always elect to go either way. But if you decide to go forward, what we want to talk about next is implementation. Implementation in this particular case involves getting a captive manager who is experienced and who is going to be in charge of forming the captive and helping us to get an insurance license issued for that captive. Now, they're also going to be doing business plans. They're also going to be working with outside actuaries, all the things that are, and putting together all the services necessary in order to have an ongoing successful captive insurance company. During this process, we'll be working with you to complete the insurance license application. This is some tedious work, which is oftentimes why we want to be involved in it, to help make it easier for you to get the information together that the manager needs to submit with the license application. At the same time that this is going on, the actuarial work is being completed. Actuaries are basically doing two things with regard to your captive. Number one, they're developing a more detailed pricing model for the premiums, but they are also doing a certification to the insurance regulation department, wherever that is. The certification is essentially that based on the business plan and based on the risks being insured, they will plot the success or likelihood of success of your particular company. And the insurance regulators are interested in that because they don't want to be giving a license to someone who's going to fail. And they don't really have the manpower to do this analysis themselves. So they're going to require the captive manager to hire an actuary to do that work. So that'll be going alongside all these other things. Risk coverages will be selected once the final pricing is done. And again, we're going to be looking for risk coverages which are important to the business, particularly if there's a claim. But we're also going to be looking at this from the captive's point of view, which wants to be profitable and operate like an insurance company, which is to be available to pay claims, but to be more profitable, of course, if they don't pay claims. So we're going to be trying to select the best risks that we can to meet the needs of both parties. The insurance license has to be issued before any business can be written, but once it is issued, then premiums can be made and policies can be issued by the captive. In terms of time, the evaluation process typically takes 2 to 6 weeks. That could be longer if there's some unusual business situation for your particular business where you have maybe some unusual risks, or maybe it takes a little bit longer to establish pricing for some of the risks because, again, some unusual factor with regard to your business. But more or less 2 to 6 weeks beginning to end where you'd be in a position to say, I think this makes sense for our business, or I think it doesn't. If it does make sense and you elect to move forward, you could see implementation. So all of those things we talked about, from hiring the captive manager and the actuaries all the way through collecting premium and issuing policies, about 6 to 8 weeks. It can take longer. If there are questions from the regulators, it can take longer, but typically what we try and do is we spend as much time as we need at the beginning of the process collecting the data, so when we submit a package to the regulators, it's a complete package and there's likely to be very few questions to hold us up. So again, as I mentioned, it could be a little bit frustrating for business owners. I know it has been in the past. We try and go the extra mile to minimize that frustration, but at the same time we want to make sure we've got a complete submission, because nothing's more frustrating than thinking you're all done providing information and then have 4 or 5 more questions come back from the regulators. So you never know what they're going to do on the regulation side, but we try and minimize the chaos that they can cause. So that's a basic outline on the process and how long it takes to get one of these put into place. Again, probably the best way to make a next step is to just give us a call or shoot us an email so we can begin having a dialogue to help you determine whether or not a captive insurance company could be right for you. If you're just interested in some more information and you like this video format, again, you can go to YouTube, type in under search InKnowVision and captives, or if you can type the link here, that would get you there too. But there are lots of other videos about different aspects of captives. So if you're just looking for more information, feel free to go there. and watch more videos on those things that interest you. But again, we look forward to getting the chance to get to know you and your business, and hopefully to see whether or not a captive insurance company would make sense. Thanks a lot for listening.